they're fucked too. Because it's just like in the summertime in Houston, you know, when you're dealing with 100% humidity and it's 115 degrees outside, you can't even explain to people what that feels like. I mean, they cooked.
There are places in the world that are going to they're going to literally cook you by 2050. So cities in India and the Middle East, you won't be able to go outside during the summer without being at risk of dying by 2050.
By 2050, like what kind of temperature are we talking about?
Well, it's a combination of heat and humidity. So, but you know, usually the heat will be like up around 130, combined with some bad humidity. But you know, we've already broken that threshold. Like there've been temperature records set every year, but last year broke 130 in Oman, I think. But like the scarier parts are not some of these crazy desert places that have gotten really hot. It's the cities. It's like Calcutta has like 12 million people in it, and you may not be able to live there in the summer in just 30 years. And then you just think about where all those people are going and how much that's going to destabilize
it's so full of
everything.
shit, man.
You know, I've talked to people who are terrified about this, and I've talked to people who are going to be physically in trouble yourself, or do you think that with proper planning and just not being tied to one spot, you can move to another area?
I mean, I have different feelings about it at different times of day because it's that big a story. It's like gonna affect everything. I think. You know, I think civilization is not gonna collapse. I think like there'll be people around, even living like kind of rewarding, prosperous lives forever. And the question is like what shape those lives take and where they are. So me personally, you know, I'm like a relatively well-off person who lives in America, in, you know, New York. I think I'll be able to do okay. I think my children will be able to do okay. And when I imagine their future, I think it's a reflection of all of our kind of like...
Then get off your dead asses and go out and look around, because it's all around you. You see these trails right here that are going over your head every fucking day, 10,000 a day, depending on which president in his office, which one, if they get worse or not. It's called geoengineering. In the conspiracy world, they call it geoengineering. And then you'll also call it chemtrails. It's mineral streets. That's what it really is. And what they do is they drop them out of the jets. Why? Because that's how we control the weather. Because we drop the carbons, okay, out of the back of the jets. And then we're able to steer them in and out of place using sine waves and sound resonance. You don't know this? You guys don't know this? You're full of shit. It's all above your head all the time. You're ridiculous. What we're looking at now is I'm digitally collecting the electromagnetic nanocarbon from the clouds, what you call clouds. And you're going to see these streaks all over the fucking place, because that's how we put these clouds into place. That's how we do it today. Through jets. And there's no possible way that Mr. Conspiracy himself doesn't know this. You are the biggest propaganda I'm a fucking lying motherfucker I've seen yet, probably.
Cognitive biases and emotional reflexes that when I imagine like my daughter's future, I'm imagining a world that seems a lot like the one that we live in today. But when I look at the science, it paints a really, really bleak picture. So, you know, the question of like optimism and alarm, I think it's really all a matter of perspective, right? So we're at 1.1 degrees Celsius right now. I think there's basically no way that we avoid 2 degrees of warming, which is like this UN calls catastrophic warming. The island nations of the world call genocide, and that's when we would...
Do you not realize how easy it is to do exactly what you're talking about now by dropping a bunch of carbons here that are going to keep the other carbons down below in the atmosphere? You don't see how that would warm up the earth?
We would be making these cities in the Middle East unlivable. It would mean like some ice sheets would start a permanent collapse, which could, all of them melted, eventually bring 260 feet of sea level rise. And we're on track for 4 degrees of warming, so that would mean $600 trillion in climate damages by the end of the century. That's twice as much wealth as exists in the world today. It would mean there'd be parts of the world, scientists say, where you could be hit by 6 simultaneous climate disasters at once. There'd be at least a few hundred climate refugees. The UN says the low-end estimate is 200 million. The high-end estimate is 1 billion, which is as many people as live in North and South America combined.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
6 simultaneous natural disasters at once?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like flooding, hurricane, famine, some public health issue, like malaria. It's like every category of modern life can be affected by this, and there aren't that many that could be hit by 6, but like already right now in Australia, there's a crazy heat wave. It's like over 120 in lots of Australia. They're also dealing with like epic floods in other parts of the country, and that's kind of the problem actually with wildfires in California. It's not just that it's getting hotter, it's that it's also getting wetter. So more rain means more growth, means when it gets hot again, that growth gets baked and then becomes, fire starter. And that's it's not just the temperature. It's like higher temperatures mean crazier extremes in all directions. And, that's why I think sort of looking big picture, there's not a life on Earth that's going to be untouched by this force, like over the decades ahead. But that's not to say that we'll all be destroyed by it either. I think like we will find ways to live and adapt and mitigate. It's just a question of how much it's going to screw up our politics, how much it's going to change the way we think of history. Like I'm a 90s kid. I grew up end of history thinking the world was going to get better, the world was going to get richer, globalization was progress, etc. What does it mean if like climate change completely eliminates the possibility of economic growth? Which probably won't be the case for the US, but there are huge parts of the world where that is going to be the case if we don't change course now. So like at the end of the century, if we don't change course, the economists studying this say global GDP could be at least 20, possibly 30% smaller than it would be without climate change. 30% is twice as big an impact as the Great Depression.
How did you get involved in this? How did you get involved in studying this? And what was your perception before you got involved, and how did it shift?
So I'm a journalist. I'm an editor mostly, actually.
See the trails?
And
Just keep an eye on them. See?
Like, as a result, read a lot of.
They're all above your own head every
like,
day.
Obscure subreddits.
I don't know why you don't see them.
And just in 2016, started seeing a lot more of that. A lot more of the news from science was about climate, and a lot more of that climate news was really scary. And when I looked around at the other places that like we think of as our competitors.
So what you should have done was close the book. What you should have done was close the book and shut off the television, shut off the internet.
TV shows. I just felt like
you should have shut everything off and went and looked all around you. That's what you should have done back in 2016. Whoever you are, I don't even know who you are.
The scarier end of the spectrum was just not at all being talked about. So most scientists talk about this 2-degree threshold as like the threshold of catastrophe. And I think most lay people think that means that that's kind of a ceiling for warming. Like that'll be the worst it could get. But actually it's functionally the best case scenario. And we hadn't had any storytelling, any discussion around what the world would look like north of 2 degrees. And I just felt, as a journalist, I was like, holy shit, there's a huge story here. Like the way that this world could be completely transformed.
You don't see these eyes looking out at you? You don't see those two big eyes right here with the big face right here? There's thousands of faces in there. Image within image within image from the veil to the ground. But come on, you don't see those two fucking devious looking eyes looking over at you? Well, neither does anybody else when I'm driving around with my camera on my dashboard. Neither does anyone else when I'm standing in the park trying to show them. Nobody will look.
Spread the word, and I wrote a big piece in 2017 that was very focused on worst case scenarios. So I mentioned before, I think 2 degrees is about our best case scenario. 4 degrees is where we're on track for now. This piece was looking at 5, 6, 8 degrees of warming, so things were not likely to get this century at least. And it was a huge phenomenon. It was read by a bunch of million people, the biggest story that New York Magazine had ever published. And I just thought, man, I guess there are a lot of people like me out there who...
You don't see the other face over here coming in? You see the trails? See the trails? Mineral streets?
In the way people
okay, and then you see the other eyes over here coming in with the nose and the mouth. See the big face?
There's more to say.
Image within image within image from the veil to the ground.
Story, telling the really dark, talking about the really dark possibilities. I just thought there are all these categories of life that we haven't even thought about how they'll impact us. So we know about sea level rise, but that's like, as I mentioned before, that makes you think if you live off the coast, you'll be okay. But the whole planet is going to be touched by this. Some places are going to be hit harder than others. India is going to be hit by like 29% of all global.
It's not a planet. You can prove it's not a planet. You don't want to go look for yourselves. You just want to take the word of entertainers, politicians, religious groups. Go look for yourself.
Climate impacts of the century. But everyone's going to be affected in some way. And the way that changes our politics, the way it changes our pop culture, the way it changes our psychology, our mood, our relationship to history, how we think about the future, how we think about the past, what we expect from capitalism, what we blame capitalism for, what we expect from technology, what we think technology can do. Can technology save us? Can technology entertain us while the world is burning? These are all these kind of like humanities questions that I felt really had not been talked about. And so the book
No, because the technology's all garbage, and it was all part of the lies as well. The technology that I'm trying to show you here, this is the technology we used to use. This is old technology, and now it's hidden from us. We hide it from ourselves. We don't want to admit that's going on. It's going on all around us all the time, but we just don't want to look at it. We rather argue with each other about bullshit stories.
does like, it's a tour through what the world would look like between 2 and 4 degrees, but it's also, which is a kind of hellscape, but it is also, about half of it is about, we're going to live here, we're going to survive. In what form? What will it mean? At the mythological level, what will it mean? At the personal level, what will it mean? The way we think about our kids and their futures and all that stuff. And, my big picture thinking about it is, it's really bleak. And I think there are some possible ways that we could avert some of these worst case scenarios. I mean, there is technology that can suck carbon out of the atmosphere.
Oh my God, not this again.
Scale. It's really expensive. But if we can, the next decade or two, really like build it, like global plantations of these carbon capture machines, then not only can we like stop the problem.
You know what sucks carbons out of the atmosphere? Trees. So why do you need a big fucking machine that don't do nearly as good as the billions of trees that we grow on every corner? You make no sense, man. No fucking sense.
From moving forward, we could actually reverse it a little bit.
I've seen those before. I've seen the designs for those where they had these enormous, like, apartment building sized air filter things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically
but only in theory.
They do exist in the real world, but only at a kind of in laboratories. They don't exist at anything like the scale they need to. But there's a guy at Harvard named David Keith who has tested his machines. They're able to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere at a cost of $100 a ton, which would mean we could totally neutralize the entire carbon footprint of the global economy. We wouldn't have to change anything. We could suck out all the extra carbon we're putting into the atmosphere for a cost of $3 trillion a year, which is a lot of money. But their estimates for how much we're...
That is the most ridiculous fucking thing I have ever heard so far in the hour that I've been listening to Joe Rogan. These people are so fucking brilliant, man. Geniuses.
Subsidizing the fossil fuel business that are as high as $5 trillion a year. So if we just redirected those subsidies to this technology, in theory, we could literally solve the problem immediately. There are other complications. It's like, in order to store the carbon, you need an industry that's 2 or 3 times the size of our present oil and gas industry, and where that goes and next to whose homes and all that stuff. It's complicated. But we have the tools we need. It's just a matter of deciding to put them into practice. And I think we're pretty recent history shows that we're not doing that fast enough. So one of the big, points that I make in the book, and it sticks in my head so strongly, is, we think of climate change as this thing that started in the Industrial Revolution like centuries ago. But half of all the carbon that we've put into the atmosphere in the history of humanity from the burning of fossil fuels has come in 30 years, the last 30 years. That's since Al Gore published his first book on warming. It's since the UN established their climate change panel. It's
See the trails?
Of Seinfeld.
See the trails everywhere?
So you and I have lived through the lion's share of all of the damage done to the climate in all of human history.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the next 30
That's
years...
called geoengineering.
So
In your world of conspiracies, Joe.
Stable climate,
But it really does happen exactly the way the United Nations tells you it does.
One generation.
You should know about all this.
To save
I mean, you're friends with freaking really crazy people, and to talk a lot of shit and lies. I mean, you should know all the bullshit stories that were put behind the geoengineering projects.
What happens?
So why you're pretending that you don't?
Will entirely be up to the way we act now and what we do. And the time scale is so crazy because you have this really compressed, we must act now to avert these.
And I'll be making sure as I'm making these videos that you don't try to take this to one of your other conspiracies, Joe Rogan, such as, it's governments doing holographic imagery in the sky. Nah, I'm way ahead of you on all that. Trees, water, human skin, any fucking thing you want. I'm showing you the true creator, the false creator, and human influence. And you, Joe Rogan, are part of the programming, part of the of our time anyway. And you're just a programmer. You are part of the bad human influence that I keep talking about in my videos that's taking us down some really bad roads. And you're one of them.
These worst case scenarios timescale, but also the impacts will unfold if we don't do anything over millennia. So like we could have, if we really bring into being the total melt of all ice sheets, that means that 8 centuries from now, 12 centuries from now, people will be dealing with the shit that we're fucking up today. We will be engineering problems for them to be solving 800, 1200, 1500 years from now. And that damage will be done, if it is done, in the next 30 or 50.
You're talking about a carbon filter system the size of a large building, just like Joe said, with no signs anywhere of solar panels on it. What's it using to run all of those generators that are sucking in those carbons? Do you have any idea of how much one of those huge building size carbon suckers, do you know how much they really, in a square mile radius, how much they suck up for carbon? Less than 2 miles, according to your science. So if it takes a whole building size carbon sucker, wouldn't it make more sense to just put catalytic converters onto things that you don't want to release the carbons into the atmosphere, such as a car or a truck or a plane or a jet? Wouldn't it make more sense to just put, we have them already. You guys are so full of shit, man. You guys really suck.
50 years. So we are really writing this epic story about Earth, humanity, and our future on this planet in the time of a single lifetime, a single generation. And that is, on the one hand, it's sort of like overwhelming, but it's also empowering. All of the climate impacts that I talk about, all the climate horrors that are really terrifying.
Oh, boy.
If we make them happen, we will be making them happen. The main input in the system is how much carbon we put into the atmosphere. There are feedback loops that people are worried about. There are things about climate that we can't control. But at least at this point, the main driver of future warming is what we do. And so we could, if we get to a 4-degree hellscape with hundreds of millions or 1 billion climate refugees, that'll be because of what we're doing. It's not some system outside of our control, even though we're often we find it kind of comforting to think that it's outside of our control, because that means we don't have to change anything.
Boy. Let's see what else he's got. Oh, this is going to be aggravating to do this. Oh, he's got Elon Musk. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
When you have this idea about improving planes,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to bring this to somebody? Or you just chuck
Well,
this
I have a lot on
around?
my plate.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how you do what you do now, but if you keep coming up with these, but it's got to be hard to pawn these off on someone else either. Like, hey, go do a good job with this vertical takeoff and landing system that I want to implement to regular planes.
They're playing.
This is Joe Rogan on with Elon Musk. Elon Musk, biggest fucking liar next to Joe Rogan. Unbelievable. I didn't even know. Again, I haven't had television in so long. I had no idea these guys were such fuckballs. I knew they were, but I didn't know it was this bad. You had Elon Musk years ago puts the Tesla car into outer space supposedly and flies it to fucking Mars. And you guys believe that nonsense? You watch the videos of it and you believe that shit, just like you believe the satellites and the rockets are going into outer space. But a car with a fucking dummy in it, and you guys bought into that shit, and then Joe Rogan's gonna sell you on it and then continue selling you on this garbage that this guy Elon Musk is saying. We've all been lied to, and we've been lying to ourselves. It's time for everyone to awaken. Not be woke, but be awakened.
Electric airplane isn't necessary right now. Electric cars are important.
We need
Solar
some sort of-
energy is important. Stationary storage of energy is important. These things are much more important than creating electric supersonic VTOL. Also, the planes.
Americans give this guy billions of dollars a year and then claim that he's a self-made billionaire. Anybody coming to these videos, if you're a real person, I mean, what the fuck are we doing? Why is nobody waking up? It's unbelievable, man.
Planes, naturally, you really want that gravitational energy density for an aircraft, and this is improving over time. So, it's important that we accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. That's why electric cars, it matters whether electric cars happen sooner or later. We're really playing a crazy game here with the atmosphere and the oceans. We're taking vast amounts of carbon from deep underground and putting this in the atmosphere. This is crazy. We should not do this. It's very dangerous. So we should accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. I mean, the bizarre thing is that obviously we're going to run out of oil in the long term. There's only so much oil we can mine and burn. It's tautological. We must have a sustainable energy transport and energy infrastructure in the long term. So we know that's the end point. We know that. So why run this crazy experiment where we take trillions of tons of carbon from underground and put it in the atmosphere?
Right, because we live in an electromagnetic nanocarbon system, and ever since the Tesla, the fake Tesla, the first Tesla, not the Tesla Corporation car company, but Tesla was a big part of this. He was a big part of lying to everybody. He gave you the alternator. He gave you the generator. He didn't give you the power, the free power that's all around us, that we're all a part of. The free energy that is all around us. I'm not talking about the sun. I'm not talking about solar panels. I'm not even talking about wind, because wind is only an effect of electromagnetic current. Heat is an effect of electromagnetic current. This electromagnetic current is all around us at all times. I've heard this asshole that's on here now, what's his face? Elon Musk. I've heard him mention before, and maybe I'll get to his videos too, about someday being able to transport people through these carbons. Well, that's the same thing that the monks were doing many, many years ago, right? It wasn't their bioshell that was transferring, it was their energy. They knew how to use this energy, and so they could transfer it the same way I'm telling you that we can all communicate with each other using this energy. That's the true creator's energy. The energy belongs to the true creator. The bioshells and the biosystem, that's the false creator. All this shit that Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and all these other people are talking, that's human influence. That's the human influence. Liars. Lying motherfuckers. Let's listen to the liars some more.
Atmosphere and oceans. This is an insane experiment. This is the dumbest experiment in human history. Why are we doing this? It's crazy.
Do you think this is a product of momentum, that we started off doing this when it was just a few engines, a few 100 million gallons of fuel over the whole world, not that big of a deal, and then slowly but surely over a century it got out of control, and now it's not just our fuel, but it's also
No, because whenever they can charge you something for it, whenever something becomes a commodity, then that's what all governments are interested in, commodities. The top leaders on our earth, because we don't live on a ball. It's nothing that Joe Rogan's ever selling, so you can get that out of your minds. Unbelievable to listen to this shit, man.
But I mean, fossil fuels are involved in so many different electronics, so many different items.
They didn't give you solar panels and electricity and when they did, they told you had to hook up a the electricity going to the pole. You had to go to the pole with whatever solar panels are on your home. Doesn't that give you an indication of what this is going down, what road? But no, it never does. The 7.8 billion zombies, they sign on the dotted line. They feel like they're making a difference for the green earth and all this shit. It doesn't work that way. When you, as soon as you start getting your first bills, you're gonna realize, all right, I'm paying $20,000 to $50,000 over so many year period. You got to subtract that. Okay, by the time that 10 years, 15-year loan ends, it's already time to start replacing panels. The solar energy that you're getting from the sky is controlled by these, what I'm telling you right now is mineral streets. The thing that Joe Rogan wants to ignore, the one thing that everybody wants to ignore is going on right above our heads. So how are you going to get sunlight through all this? How are you going to do that if they have control over it? If we have control over all this and we deny that we have the control, right? So if that's blocking your sun and the rays going to your roof panels, then how are you going to get the free electricity that they're talking about? You can't. And then if you do get the free electricity and they allow you to have some sunlight to peek through these geoengineering, chemtrails, mineral streets, if they do let you have some, then what happens next? You cannot store it yourself. They make you send it back to the pole. As soon as it enters your house, it goes to the pole first, then it gets monitored, and then you buy back a certain amount of it. You're not getting it all free. So you have to then, whoever's in control of your particular electric company, then sells that electricity, free electricity, that your solar panel sucked up. And now they're going to sell that electricity per kilowatt to your neighbor. So they take it from you, they give you a discount on your electricity, and everybody's happy with that. They won't allow you to have a battery the size of let's say a small shed under your backyard. Oh no, too dangerous, too dangerous. Why? There's no jelly in them anymore. There's nothing harmful in them anymore. We can get really good batteries. We know how to make them. Unfortunately, China is the one that's making them all, but we know how to make them. If we wanted to, they don't want you to have free energy. They're fucking lying to you. Because we're all fucking liars. And these guys are two of the biggest.
That people buy is just this constant desire for fossil fuels, constant need for oil. Without consideration of the sustainability.
The thing is, like oil, coal, gas, it's the easy money.
Right.
It's the easy money. So,
have you heard about clean coal? The president's been tweeting about it. It's got to be real. Clean coal, all caps. Did you see? He used all caps. Clean coal.
He used all caps. Well, it must be true.
You know, it's very difficult to put that CO2 back in the ground. It doesn't like being in solid form.
Have you thought about something like that? Like some sort of a filter? Giant building-sized filter sucks carbon out of the atmosphere? Is that possible?
No, it's not possible.
No?
No, definitely
so
not.
We're fucked.
No, we're not fucked. I mean, this is quite a complex question.
Right.
You know, we're really just... the more carbon we take...
It's not complex at all. Instead of thinking of pulling the carbons out of the atmosphere, if you guys really wanted to do this, which makes absolutely no sense, seeing that we live in a carbon system, but if you did really feel like you wanted to do this, then you would stop the carbons from going in the atmosphere by adding carbon collectors to every goddamn thing, just like we already do. Catalytic converters. That's what they are. You guys are unfucking believable, man.
Take out of the ground and into the atmosphere, and a lot of it gets permeated into the oceans, the more dangerous it is. Like, I don't think right now, I think we're okay right now.
So you see them when they're dumping out the mineral streets everywhere? See those mineral streets? See them, Joe?
Sustainable energy is too slow.
No, still don't see them? Give me a chance. I'm going to do a big series to you. I'll show them to you. And then you can get together with Elon and talk to him about it.
2.5 billion cars and trucks in the world. So, and the new car and truck production, if it was 100% electric, that's only about 100 million per year. So it would take, if you could snap your fingers and instantly turn all cars and trucks electric, it would still take 25 years to change the transport base to electric.
You don't want to change anything to electric. If you were going to change the cars over to electric, why would you not just put solar panels on the hoods, trunks, and roof, right? Then you'd have solar run cars. Of course, they're not going to do that because that would mean free energy to go into your vehicle, charge your batteries, and you'd be driving electric cars for free. So they're not going to do that. They're going to put electric charging stations everywhere that you have to use coal energy and gas fuels to get the energy. It makes no sense at all. It's all backwards. It's all upside down. I don't know how nobody sees this. I don't know how you guys cannot see this. These people you are looking up to are the biggest fucking liars, man. Unbelievable.
Makes sense, because how long does a car truck last before it goes into the junkyard and gets crushed? About 20 to 25 years.
Is there a way to accelerate that process?
Yeah. It takes 20 to 25 years.
It's like,
It takes 20, 25 years because that's planned obsolescence. We could make cars that last 100 years. We could actually be raising humans that last 600 to 800 years. We know this from our past false history. We can look back in the books and see what the fuck were they talking about. Now we know. It's all controllable.
some sort of subsidies or some encouragement from the government financially?
Well, the thing that is going on right now is that there's an inherent subsidy in any oil burning device. Any power plant or car is fundamentally consuming the carbon capacity of the oceans and atmosphere. Or just say atmosphere for short. So like you can say okay, there's a certain
God, why is everybody
probability of something bad happening past a certain carbon concentration in the atmosphere. And so there's some uncertain number where if we put too much carbon in the atmosphere, things overheat, oceans warm up, ice caps melt, ocean real estate becomes a lot less valuable, something's underwater. But it's not clear what that number is, but it's definitely, scientists would all, it's really quite, the scientific consensus is overwhelming. Overwhelming. I mean, I don't know any serious scientists, actually zero, literally zero, who don't think that, that we have quite a serious climate risk that we're facing. And so,
This is who you guys think is a genius? I've been listening to people on the street for years now. Never really got to know this guy. I knew about SpaceX. I knew that he had started that bullshit story, but I was already on to the lies by that time. Listening to him now, I've been listening to him on Fox News a little here and there, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, but not as much as Joe Rogan is right now. This is like listening to fucking Biden. This guy's a fucking idiot. And you guys are all out there listening to him and looking up to him like he's a hero? You give him billions of dollars a year and then pat him on the back and say, thank you for taking me into pretend space in my imagination? You fucking people are unbelievable, man.
there's fundamentally a subsidy occurring with every fossil fuel burning thing. Power plants, aircraft,
Fucking believable.
car, frankly even rockets. I mean, rockets use up, they burn fuel. But there's just, with rockets, there's just no other way to get to orbit, unfortunately. So it's the only way. But with cars, there's definitely a better way with electric.
That is not true. This guy, you're a liar, Elon Musk. You're a fucking liar. No, we have electromagnetic current in our system. And if you didn't know it already, I'll let you in on a little secret. There's no such thing as outer space as you're claiming it is. You got satellites floating around. They're not floating. They're running on electromagnetic current. So if you don't happen to know that, you have to know that. You have to know that. You must know that we have a lot of things that can run on electromagnetic current. We don't have to be using the bullshit story of gravity. Okay, we don't have to be using, in other words, helium balloons or anything like that to be floating around. We don't need even airfoil manipulation, because even airfoil manipulation, a big part of it is electromagnetic current. And if you don't know that, I don't believe you that you don't know that either. The regular population's not going to understand that. But you don't put 20-ton fucking planes in the air floating around and coming in at 400 or 500 miles per hour. Nah, it doesn't work that way. They're too heavy. They're too heavy. You have to have something else besides airfoil manipulation to keep some of these big ass planes up in the air. And that would be electromagnetic current. That's why the planes are made out of metal. Even the aluminums, there's always going to be reverse magnetism. And so depending on what they're built out of, but they're mostly metal. Only the small planes of the old days, the fiberglass ones, because they were light, they were made out of fiberglass, and if you changed their weight in any way, if you tried to even add 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there to do a repair on your old airplane, you're going to have fucking problems and you're going to know about it. Why? Because you're not using any electromagnetic current, you're using airfoil manipulation to fly the plane. That's why. You never do that with one of those big military planes. No.
Electric cars. And to generate the energy, do so with photovoltaics, because we've got a giant thermonuclear reactor in the sky called the sun. It's great. It shows up every day. Very reliable. So if you can generate energy from solar panels, store it with batteries, you can have energy 24 hours a day. And then you can send it to the poles or near to the north with high voltage lines. Also, the northern parts of the world.
Well, why would you need to? If you can make batteries and you can give everybody a battery, then why would not every home in the United States have their own battery? For even if you had one battery per every 3 or 4 homes, right? Whatever you wanted to do, you bury it in the ground, make sure it's in concrete blocks, whatever, to make sure it's safe. And then from now on, free energy. Those 4 homes all have solar panels. They collect their own energy. Same thing with the cars. There's no reason not to do it that way if you wanted to use solar energy. But I'd still say there's better energy all around us, but whatever. Point being that you're controlling it. You're still going to have control over it. You make no fucking sense. Anything you say, I don't know why
The world tend to have
everyone's listening to
a
this
lot
guy.
of hydropower as well. Anyway, all fossil fuel powered things have an inherent subsidy, which is their consumption of the carbon capacity of the atmosphere and oceans. So people tend to think like, why should electric vehicles have a subsidy? But they're not taking into account that all fossil fuel burning vehicles fundamentally are subsidized by the environmental cost to Earth. But nobody's paying for it. We are going to pay for it, obviously. In the future, we'll pay for it. It's just not paid for now.
We've been paying for it. All along we've been paying for it because we never needed the fossil fuels either. We were told, if you think back to the old day stories, originally it was supposed to be dinosaurs. And where's dinosaurs? They're all on the ground and they turn into oil after billions and billions of fucking light years. You guys are so full of shit. And then you're going to say, oh yeah, I mean, it's so unbelievable. And then years go by and then go flash forward to Henry Ford, from your dinosaurs to Henry Ford. And then Henry Ford wants to use plants to make his fuel and everything. That's why marijuana got outlawed. That was one of the reasons. So they knew that we could, what fossil fuels truly were. It was plant life. It's plant life. And then all of a sudden science determines how long that plant life has to sink into the ground in order to become a fossil fuel. Why? Why do we have to wait for science? We can do it ourselves in a fucking jar. We can make our own fuel out of the energy that we can get from the plants that are all around us. It's a no-brainer. It's not. I wouldn't even call it science. I would call it common sense. But we never did that, because then you can't charge the people for the fucking fuel. Then it's not a commodity. It's just shit that people can grow in their own yard, and they can stick the shit in the fucking, save all your compost, because your compost will run your vehicle for you. Never do it. Never do it. Not enough money for everybody in that. It's got to be a commodity or they don't do it. And you guys are unbelievable sellers, sales pitch fucking lying motherfuckers. And you're not even good at lying. That's the thing. Your lies are ridiculous when I'm listening to them. So I don't know how the hell you got 7.8 billion people believing your shit.
And what is the bottleneck?
Even if
in
it's only
regards to
350
electric
million,
cars
unbelievable.
and trucks and things like that? Is it battery capacity?
Yeah, I've got to scale up production. Got to make the car compelling. Make it better than gasoline or diesel cars.
Make it more efficient in terms of like the distance it can travel.
Yeah, you got to be able to go far enough, recharge fast.
And your Roadster, you're anticipating 600 miles. Is that correct?
Yeah,
What is that?
600 miles.
Is that right now? Like, have you driven one 600 miles now?
No, we could totally make one right now that would do 600 miles. But the thing is, it's too expensive. So, like the car's
How
got
much more so?
Well, you know, just have a 20.
Yeah, I think this video's over. 40 minutes. Yeah, you can make one, a car to go 600 miles on a battery. We don't make the batteries in the United States. We don't make any of the lithium in the United States. We don't make any of the parts for the electric cars in the United States. We don't even make the electric cars in the United States. China is where we'll be getting all of that from. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows this. So over the next 100 years, this asshole Elon Musk is telling all you to go over with these electric cars because you can go 600 miles and it's a nice car and all. How ridiculous that everyone's buying into this shit. So don't act surprised because we've already been told China's the one that runs all that. China's the one that has it all. We obviously don't because all of our factories are gone. So our factories, we're not making nothing like that. Even Silicon Valley's not even making any computer parts or nothing. So we're not going to make shit. So you're going to pay for the energy. You're going to pay big for all the shit to do it. For what? For what reason? For no reason. It's not going to be free energy. It's not going to be less carbons in the atmosphere. None of the things that you guys are claiming that would do, it would not do any of them. They're liars. These people are fucking unbelievable.
200 kilowatt hour battery pack, and you can go 600 miles.
Right, versus what do you have now?
330 mile range. So that's plenty for most people.
What is that in terms of kilowatts?
Well, that would be for Model S 100 kilowatt hour pack. We'll do about 330 miles. Maybe it's 335. But some people have hypermiled it to 500 miles.
Hypermiled it? What does that mean?
Just like go on
45 miles an hour or something?
Yeah, like
yeah, you know, hypermild. You know, Joe, like kind of like light years. You know, hypermile, light years, same thing.
30 miles an hour.
Fucking unbelievable.
Like, on level ground with you pop the tires up really well and on a smooth surface, and you can go for a long time. But you like
hypermiles.
300 miles. This is fine for most people. Usually 200 or 250 miles is fine. 300 miles is you don't even think about it really.
Is there any possibility that you could use solar powered one day, especially in Los Angeles? I mean, as you said about that giant nuclear reactor, 1 million times bigger than Earth, just floating in the sky. Is it possible that one day you'll be able to just power all your cars just on solar power? I mean, we don't ever have cloudy days. If we do, there's 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell planet do you really think that you live on, Joe Rogan? What the hell planet do you really live on?
Well,
we don't have cloudy days? I don't know what the fuck studio you're working in, man. You're unbelievable. Everything out of your mouth is a lie. This is going to be one of the hardest series I've ever had to do. You people that were mad that I was ranking out Harold Kotz. Harold Kotz is a fucking dream compared to this guy.
Without making the car like really blocky, or having some
like a G-Wagon.
Yeah, like and just like having a lot of steps there where like maybe like solar panels fold out or something.
Like your E-Class. That's what we needed.
So here you have a stream right here coming through. You got a clear face right here. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that one.
Well, at the beginning of Tesla, I did want to have this like unfolding solar panel thing.
There's all these other ones over here too, but I just like pointing that one out.
Panels and like recharge your car in the parking lot.
Ah.
Yeah, we could do that, but I think it's probably better to just put that on your roof.
Right.
and then it's gonna just be facing the sun all the time. Because like
what car
otherwise
had
your
that
car
on
could
the
be in the
roof?
shade, you know, it could be in the shade, it could be in a garage or something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Didn't a